Committee of Chandigarh branch of NIRC of ICAI welcome you all on behalf of the Chandigarh branch for this virtual meeting on international accounting. International accounting has become a very talked about topic in our profession in the recent times, and everyone wants to know more about it and explore the opportunities. So we have with us our panelist CA Arvind Tuliji and our guest speaker CPA Fadi Ganiji. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, hi, thank you very much.
So first of all, I would request CA Anil Kakkarji, Chairman Chandigarh branch, to make his welcome address.
Thank you, Vinci. Thanks a lot. A very good afternoon to each and everyone. Respected member, I, on the behalf of Chandigarh branch, welcome today's guest speaker, CPA Fadi Gani sir, and we are thankful to him for accepting our request to enlighten the member on today's topic. Once again, thanks a lot, sir, for sparing your valuable time for the profession, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. We also welcome today's panelist, CA Arvind Tuliji, renowned direct tax expert. We are really thankful to him for giving his precious time despite of his busy schedule. Thank you once again, Tuli sir, for giving us your valuable time, sir. We also welcome all the participants. Well, member, you all know the importance of the topic to be covered by our guest speaker. I am of the firm belief that the participant will definitely have value addition to their knowledge from the today's topic. We at the Chandigarh branch making efforts to cover each and every subject of members' interest via webinars, workshops, and seminars with the knowledgeable resource person. My humble request to all of you, please participate in every coming branch activities. In end, thank you very much, each and everyone. Once again, over to Vinci.
Thank you, sir. So now I would like to introduce to you all our panelist for the day, CA Arvind Tuliji. He's an educator with experience of teaching.
Vinci, your voice has gone. Vinci, your voice has gone, Vinci ji.
I think the connection has gotten stuck.
Yeah. We can wait, ji. Sorry for interruption, ji. She is going to connect again, ji.
So Anilji, if you allow me, I can introduce myself a little. And,
yeah, why not? Ji? Why not?
Well.
Why not, Tuli sir?
See, I've had the privilege of being an educator for 20 years, sir, in the city. And I also proudly say that branch में इतने सारे members हैं जो student रह चुके हैं. And I've been a participant in the journey of a lot of chartered accountants in the city, and it's a privilege I've enjoyed. But आज मेरे को लगता है ऐसा है कि time थोड़ा बदल रहा है, sir. And you know, the Indian chartered accountant needs to venture out of the borders of India. And हमें international opportunities के बारे में देखना चाहिए. हमें देखना चाहिए कि internationally what are the skill sets that are required. While हमारे कई हैं fraternity members who ventured out into, you know, a lot of back office accounting or what we call KPOs, and some have ventured outside to take jobs abroad. But अभी भी the youngsters that are joining in and a lot of elders as well, पूरी तरह नॉलेज नहीं होता है कि बैक ऑफिस शुरू करें तो क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स फेस हो सकते हैं या अकाउंटिंग इंटरनेशनल में क्या क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं. So Mr. Fadi Gani has been a pioneer in this since 1995. He is the CEO and founder of Morgan International based in Beirut since 1995. And in the last so many years, he's also, part with the Becker's franchise for CPA, CMA, conducting international training for accounting, and so much more. So I was trying to assure the Fadi if he could get some time to come and address our, fraternity in Chandigarh and give us some guidance on how we can further take up these opportunities. So thank you, Fadiji, for joining us.
Thank you.
And please guide us into all these opportunities that are available. And if possible, all these members will be benefited out of it.
Thank you.
Sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Vinci, are you there, Ji? Vinci, have you joined? I think she have lost the connection, Ji.
I think the connection over.
Thank you, Tulsi, sir. For, Vinci, are you there now? We can wait, otherwise.
I think, Fadi, we can start on this.
Sure.
You have given your introduction, sir. So Fadi have also, you have given the introduction of Fadi, sir, also, Ji. So I welcome you, sir. You can go ahead with your technical session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So first, I want to thank you for inviting me for this session. I'm not going to go into technicalities because we need to understand what's going on in the industry, the skills requirements. So I'm going to talk on a very high level, what's happening globally when it comes to the profession. What are the skills required and what is impacting the profession? As we know, the profession today is changing. It's changing rapidly. So I'm going to be sharing some slides with you. And if you have questions, anything, we can interrupt, or I can finish the presentation, and then we can, the last 40 minutes, we can debate it. It's up to the preference. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We are seeing.
Okay, so let me do this. So what I'll be talking about is the future of accounting and finance in this digital economy. 10 years down the road, the role of an accountant or a finance person is going to be completely of what we know today. It's changing rapidly across all the board. So it is more becoming focused on other type of skills rather than technical skills that we learn at the university. One of the major issues that we are facing, and those are, I train across the world, is that a lot of companies are coming to us and they're saying there's a skills gap between what the universities are producing and what the profession requires. The profession is changing dynamically because of technology, yet the university graduates are lacking the skills to be in positions in accounting. And that's most of accountants and CFOs are facing this. So I will talk as a start about, we are witnessing now the fourth industrial revolution. And this is the fourth one, we're in the middle of it. So in the 1780s, we've seen the shift to mechanical systems. In the 1890s, which was the second revolution, where we had the electricity and the communication tools as well, there was a major shift back then. And then in the 50s, we started talking about computers and emerging computer powers, mainframes. And now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which is really, it's about shift completely into cyber physical society. This will impact the accounting and finance professionals as well. So if I want to define what we are going through as the fourth industrial revolution, it's mainly what we mean by it is that where we have computers interacting with humans and other computers. So we have those linking now, a lot of data being generated now, shared and stored, and using smart technology, and accountants have to make use of that. And computers now is in every facet of the business, in every function and the role. and there's a quick adaptation and fast-moving technology changes. So what we know of today is not going to be there in 2-3 years, and there's a major shift towards the cyber physical systems. We're talking cloud systems, accountants, and a lot more. So that's what we mean by the fourth industrial revolution. Now, what is impacting all of this? It's definitely robotics, process automation, and I believe India is on the forefront as well with that. We've seen it starting where US were working with BPOs to process all the accounting and this out of India. Artificial intelligence is very important, Internet of Things, and definitely it's the blockchain. And most of the accounting softwares and accountants will be moving. If I want to focus strictly on the accounting and finance, it's going to be the blockchain. I'll give you a few examples before we go into the skills level, but I want to talk about the general. So a lot of people think this is really bad. We're going to lose our jobs as an accountant. What do we need to learn? Well, accountants, they can either make use of all of this and learn new skills. When I talk about exams, professional exams, when I reach that stage, I'm going to show you a few examples how those things are changing. But definitely there's benefits with this, where cost savings over time. There might be heavy investment upfront, but in the longer term, there will be cost savings. The data accuracy is going to be much more enhanced with using those technologies. And if we shift to, of course, blockchain technology or the distributed ledger, definitely additional security. There's going to be a lot of security over there. And the role of an accountant is going to typically change from entering and compiling financial statements into more of a highly valued added work. So what is expected from us is not only to produce the financials and make sure that they are accurate and correct and produce an opinion. It's the expectation from finance people now is really to drive value by using technology. Definitely this all will impact the recruitment strategies of the accounting firms or the private companies hiring finance people. And this is the way the future is going to happen. So that's happening. The main challenges that we'll be facing is two main things. One is that you require capital to invest in all of this. And there's still concerns about data privacy. When we talk about data privacy, we're talking about three main topics here. We're talking about cybersecurity, protecting the data, confidentiality, the data mining, how it should be mined and how it should be saved. And most important in some parts of the world is the government-sponsored spying. When you have your data on the cloud in a digital format, they could be spying on it via the communication here, how you're communicating that data. So these are challenges that accountants and finance people have to overcome to advance. Now, if we look at the digital economy I'm referring to, it's divided. If we look at how it's composed, we're talking about 5 main sectors. Support services, now it's about 30% when we talk about digital economy. Telecommunication, 25%, software, 20%, e-commerce, 10%, and the hardware is about 10%. Us, we fall into the 30%. We provide professional services. So we are among the largest group who will be impacted in this. So the technology companies, hardware, software, yes, they are impacted, but not as much as the service level companies. And this is based on statistics done just recently in 2021. So the finance function in the digital economy, so when we talk about finance, usually what we do is we manage the assets of the company, how they are acquired, how we use them, how we manage them, how we invest them, and how we report them. So the finance role within that digital economy is going to be using technologies. And as a modern finance person now, the key focus would be on 3 areas, which I mentioned before, is the blockchain, the artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. I'm not going to go into the details because I want to move later on and focus more on the skills level, which is more interesting for us, what we need to acquire to be successful in our careers. And I'll talk about the trends as well. So the first hurdle, like I mentioned, is the cybersecurity in finance. Just to give you some numbers so you can relate to, this is a report from last year from the FBI, $10.2 billion in losses between 2015 and 2019 because of cyber security issues. 23,000 emails were compromised in 2019, 1,200 complaints they receive on a daily basis. 2 million cases are open of fraud, cyber fraud. The largest market being attacked is the US, followed by the UK. So California records the highest, and then followed by the UK. Just giving you how important this topic is for finance and accounting. We're literally very conservative and we're protective. So that's very important. So another survey that we've seen is what are the concerns? That's based on 250 CFOs that they have been surveyed globally, largest companies, and what's their concerns in today's market. So 72% said that they still spend a lot of time manual work. For example, a few of them mentioned 500 hours per year being spent only on cash disbursement and related accounts payable. So a lot of manual work, and that's 72 is a high number. 75%, they said they've seen significant changes to the function of accounting and finance, and specifically it was impacted during the COVID period. So they're starting to see that there are changes coming around. But what's more interesting is that 95% of finance people, they still feel anxious related to automating the processes and the accounting functions. And 57% out of the 95 said that their team is very concerned that they might be losing their jobs. Now, I'm talking here strictly finance and accounting. And 70% they said we are facing challenges. And if we don't automate and modernize, we're gonna be losing. We have a huge risk of not meeting the demand and the expectation of the business. So the business is changing, and there's expectation from our side. And 62% of CFOs, they said, we're gonna refocus all our finance department on new tasks that brings a higher value than spending on manual work. So the change is coming, we don't have a choice because it's gonna be demanded by the corporate or the client base. So we are in it, and though there's anxiety that some jobs might be lost, it's not the reality because those jobs will not be lost, they will be changed, what we do. So the top concerns that's been raised is big data analytics. So we're being bombarded, we're transacting globally. How are we gonna analyze all that data? Financial statements is not sufficient anymore. Having an income statement, a cash flow statement, a balance sheet statement is not efficient anymore to make decisions. So that's a big concern. The concern is about distributed ledger, which we're talking about blockchain. A lot of those accounting softwares, they're gonna move into that. The financial transactions, how they're happening, how are we automating them? AI is a big concern, and the FinTech. When we talk about FinTech, we talk about a lot of tools now that's being used to data mine those data and produce analytical information, financial information for decision makers. So these are the concerns. Now, if we look at the trends that will impact us, they are mainly segregated into 9. I just want to go over them very briefly because we shouldn't be worried or scared that we'll be losing our jobs. On the contrary, opportunities is going to open up. We see a trend growing. The service level of accountants and finance people is going to be higher demand on it. So we have a bigger role to play, but we need to see the ecosystem around it. So one of the things is that Definitely in the longer term, there's going to be economic growth. We're talking now, we might be entering into recession, but eventually there's economic growth and the demand for accounting and finance will grow. So the accounting and auditing services will be in demand. That's the first reality. Second reality is globalization. So it's not anymore driven by the US. Everybody was thinking that US is driving the global economy. No, it's been shifting now. India is part of it. It's not anymore the US. China is part of it. So with the globalization now and the complexity, there's a demand for accounting and auditing services. It's becoming more complex, and specifically, there's going to be a new service levels related to international accounting, international tax laws, mergers and acquisitions. So tax is going to become a very complicated field. Compliance is going to be very complicated because you have to comply with different legal jurisdictions. So again, the demand is there. It's not being run by the US. There are other major players that's going to spur the demand for accountants. Third point is the regulatory environment. Overall, the operations are becoming more complex, especially when we talk about international and cross-border. And those complexities are now impacting the regulatory environment. So the authorities, the governments, with the complexity, they will have to increase the regularity. So financial reporting and tax regulation will be impacted as well. How we report and what are the tax regulation, there's going to be more compliance procedures when it comes to those. The impact of COVID, we've seen it. Again, based on the survey of 250 CFOs, 14% only were ready to have the employees to work remotely. 14%. The number of people working remotely is higher, but those who managed properly was around 14%. And there's definitely now requirements for modification in the rules and how it's going to be done. And remote work will not stop. It's going to be hybrid. So it's part of the future for financial professionals. As a finance person now, you might be working hybrid, but remote work will not stop anymore. And for the job prospects, like I've mentioned, and I'm talking here globally, there will be demand. There is demand for jobs in different industries, and the employment for accounting and finance people globally will increase. India is a competitive advantage as well compared to the region, because you're already receiving a lot of working for multinationals out of India. So that will continue at the exponential growth as well. So if we look at where are the job prospects by industry classification, they basically, you either work as an auditor, public accountant, or you're going to be in management accountants within the firm, or working for the government, or internal auditor, or external auditor, or information technology auditor. These are the main sections. There are subdivisions of them, but this is where the categories fall into when it comes to accounting and finance. Training and advancement, it's a big topic. All CFOs are facing challenges. Accounting graduates from universities are not meeting the skills requirements of the corporate. It's very simple. Corporate world is moving very fast, it's changing very fast, and the university is very much traditional, and they're at a slower pace. Changing curriculum, accreditation is not moving fast, and therefore there's a big skills gap between the corporate world and the graduates entering or the accountants. So what they are talking about now is that universities should integrate internship and hands-on learning experience. This is discussed across all universities. Specifically in India, we've seen it happening. We've seen a lot of in the universities now adding professional qualification, embedded them into their graduate programs. So they're having both sides of the coin. As for accounting and audits, definitely being certified, whether CPA, Indian Chartered Accountant, will nail better jobs, and their salary over the years much higher. In the US, the average increase on a year basis is around 10% more than those who are not certified. Now, when we talk about training and advancement, there's two levels. There's one level is on the soft skills side, and there is certification side. And there's thousands and thousands of certifications out there when it comes to accounting and finance. Among them, these are not only one, you have the US Certified Management Accountant, you have the Certified Internal Auditor, you have the Certified Information System Auditor, you have Personal Financial Specialist credential, there's accreditation in business valuation as well, or Certified Financial Forensic credential, or Certified Information Technology Professional certificate. These are just samples. So we have to think outside the scope. Definitely the base is to get your chartered accountancy or your CPA or the ACCA. This is the base, but you have to complement that with other certification. This is where the direction is going in the medium term. In the longer term, we're gonna go more into specific certification. When I talk about CPA BIP, I will tell you that the exam, the year 2023, it's changing completely. It used to be 4 parts, now it's 3 parts, and you have elective 1 out of 3 based on your where do you want to work. It's moving more into focus type of certification. So when we talk about, again, training, apart from getting your credential and passing those professional exams, to be successful, what is required now for the future more than ever is you have to have strong analytical skills and critical thinking skills. Currently, the exams don't focus too much on that. There's going to be changes in that. Communication skills, because your role as a finance person now is you need to drive a value. So you're central of communication between operations, decision makers, management. The role of accountants is growing. So communication skills is very important. Being able to communicate financial numbers to non-finance people. Definitely, attention to detail is very important. And everybody is talking about quantitative skills, which how you analyze and quantify that information. And finally, organizational skills, because you're no longer managing a task. If we look at 2020, 2021, majority of finance people were not engaged in accounting and finance. They were engaged in supply chain logistics. Because of the shutdown and the supply chains, they had to go in and work with procurement. So they got involved in supply chain. So that skills level has grown. So you have to have an overall knowledge of business now. Now, one of the things that's being projected is that there will be shortage in accounting and finance. And there are 3 main reasons, 4, I would say. One is that retirement. A lot of accountants are retiring. Technology is taking some roles. So there will be fewer, I would say, accountants with the proper skills to be hired. So there's skills shortage. And the professional certification pipeline. What we're seeing is that accounting students, at least in the Western world, I can talk about UK and the US and some parts of the Middle East, is that a lot of the people are not going through the certification anymore. Universities have less number of accounting graduates. In the US, it's a fact the accounting curriculum within universities is not growing. And the reason is a lot of those students think, one, we don't need to pass the exam. They feel that they can be successful without being a professional accountant. Their mind, their skills level and the way they think is different than our days. They think exams take too much time, it's consuming and it's expensive. And a lot of feel that the credential lack relevance and value to their career. So they're saying that the exams do not match the requirements of today's world. So this is the notion, and there's always shortage of skills. It's actually now there's a shortage of skills for talented accountants. So 43% of CFOs into the report they having too few employees. They want to hire more and they're not finding the required skills. As for the 8th point, which is the shift to remote work in the accounting world, so client onboarding, how we bring in a new client if you're an auditor, or how you build that relationship with the CFO and the team is going to be, a lot of it is going to shift virtually. You have to think about new ways. If you're an auditor, you have your own audit firm, how are you going to bring in clients? Clients are not only interested that you list your service and you give them their fees. They're going to say, okay, what else can you give me apart from the typical accounting services? So you have to think of online tools, how you like case studies, whatever, to bring in new clients. Definitely softwares are shifting to cloud-based accounting. So you can access the clients remotely and you can do all the accounting functions remotely, which will give real-time data now between the auditor and the client. So we're going virtual. Definitely this comes with virtual client meetings and adapting the auditing processes. You don't need to go to the client to do some audits. Some of the audits can be done virtually. And definitely you should be able to be successful. You should be able to have a remote team that's able to handle that, because it's not easy for accountants to be able to handle remote workers and at the same time, especially in the audit, auditing remotely your clients, some processes. So on a high level, the last point, which is impacting all of this, is definitely technology. So one of the things what we've seen, if you look at major companies quickly adapting various industries, marketing is adapting to technology, procurement is way advanced in technology. Most of the functions within the organizations are quickly adapting. Accounting and finance, we're at a slower pace. So the technology is outpacing accounting and financing functions. So to survive and to bring in value, the accounting and finance must be ready to adapt to those threats or challenges that technology brings. Because if we don't adapt, we're not be looked at that we drive value and are being able to provide the service required in today's world. So procurement is ahead of us, marketing is ahead of us, research is ahead of us, IT department is ahead of us. We really need to adapt quickly to the evolving technology. So it gives us the opportunity to innovate and bring in new efficiencies. However, there's the risk of cybercrime, and historically we are conservative by nature. So we're very slow in adopting new things. And as well, the government regulations puts hindering factors on us to adopt very quickly. There's a lot of restrictions as well from the government. And a lot of accountants are simply resistance to change. They want to continue doing what they're doing, specifically in the audit, the way we used to do it 10 years ago. And this is no longer sustainable. So this is where technology is impacting us. And so the demand for accountants, like I've said, is gonna grow. There's a shortage of supply of good accountants, but the skills will change. So when we look for an accountant now, when I interview an accountant, I'm going to look at specific trades that is different than what I used to 10 years ago. And that's mainly because of the technology, and only those who are willing to accept and adopt and move into the new age will be able to find good jobs. And usually adopters of the technology, if I look at it, falls into 5 categories. There's the innovators, around 2.5%. Early adopters is around 3.5%. Early majority is around 34%, and late majority around 34%. And laggards who do not adopt is 16%. For us, we fall under the late majority. So everything is moving out of us. Accountants fall into the late majority, unfortunately. So talking about technology continuing, we're talking about here big data. We are being bombarded now. Accounting and finance have to deal with the large of data now, unlike before. Not only financial transaction, other non-financial transaction has to go through the accounting as well. So how are we going to leverage that data and how are we going to analyze it? So the big data and data analytics is very hot topic. If you look at the CMA designation, the test on it, CPA exam now, they're moving and they're testing on it, and everybody's talking about it. So we're talking about ensuring data is gathered, filtered, aligned, and integrated, big data, how we deploy artificial intelligence solution for crunching of numbers. We cannot really crunch thousands of numbers in a short period. And there's going to be a role between financial managers working very closely with IT teams. So, because we need to make sure that the data is complete. Data is going to be supplied by platform overrun by the IT teams. So finance people have now to work very closely with the IT teams. This is when it comes to big data and data analytics. Again, we spoke about it. We're definitely moving into the blockchain. It was established by the cryptocurrency. Now everybody is talking about it in the finance world. The reason it will enhance security. So the ledgers that we have will be sitting on a different servers and coming up. So no one have the full information distributed in the blockchain technology. So no fraud or no theft. Money now, as well, a lot of governments now are starting to look into the fiat money. Fiat money is crypto money, but it is accepted by government, legalized by the government. So we're going to be dealing with that as well. It will create a market and the privacy. Now, this is very interesting about privacy. So because of we're going to be using data blockchain, so you cannot have the data all in one place. So you don't know from where the data is coming. So data analytics, it's going to become based on anonymized data rather than personally identified. That audit trail is not going to be very clear like we have it today. So that's why what I say is accountants will have to change few things. Financial transactions. So we're talking about automation. A lot of the regular transaction from, for example, it's starting with the investments where we have AIs integrated into softwares to trade on capital markets, buy and sell. And it can stage, stop the trade, withdraw the money or pay and rebalance the portfolio. This is existing today, but it's going to go into other forms of transactions. Definitely it's touchless transactions. We're moving from credit cards, mobile payments. Accountants have to deal with all of that. And service. So calling the banks and asking the bank to produce, we all seen it now. Everything is online. You can get the reports, and you're gonna have AI-enabled softwares that conducts those transactions. You don't need to send an email to the bank or a letter. Now wire this. It's an AI is gonna be automated all. FinTech. They're talking about it. Some companies are starting to do that, which we're talking about microloans, So as a company or your person, you want to go and get a loan to the company. We used to go to a bank and speak with one bank, they give us 100,000. Now we're talking about micro loans. Instead of taking it from one bank, we take a loan of $20, but we take it across 1,000 loans. So we call them gather 700 micro loans. This is the trend that's moving where accountants have to deal with that. And the sharing of economy, because now we know that we transact in a monetary value. It's based on currency, Indian ruble, US dollars, but we're moving into those governments will digitize the currency at one point. So there's going to be bartering where you're not going to see hard currency. We're going to buy something through cryptocurrency in exchange for goods and services. So this is going to become more prevalent. And like I mentioned about artificial intelligence, but this is very interesting. We're backwards. This is by Accenture, where they interviewed 1,500 finance executive leaders from 12 countries. India was included, across different industries. And they believe, these are finance people, 84% said they must scale using artificial intelligence in the reporting to be able to achieve organizational growth. However, 75% think if they don't scale and they don't go in that direction, the business will be impacted within 5 years. And 76% don't know how to do it. So how to scale that across the finance function? They don't have it all. So it's very interesting statistics. You can see there's an anxiety when it comes to all of that. The last topic, before I talk about the skills, is we need to move fast, but we have the regulators and the changes. And not only that, and currently within the accounting, specifically for the Fortune 500 companies or the large multinational companies, what we've been witnessing is that the economic power is shifting and the wealth is shifting to a concentrated among few players. So the wealth is not distributed equally across corporates. It is in India, it is in the US. So you have the big companies running the show, and somehow the smaller companies is indirectly attached to them, or they need their services in order to survive into today's world. That's one regulation that will be changing. The other thing is the concentration risks in the accounting industry as well. Very interesting. 100% of the 457 companies that are public, have public information, and they are part of the 500 Fortune, were audited by the big four global firms. This is a problem where the big four, if we see at this, and this is the regulation, they're looking at it. So you look at the Fortune 500, 91% are audited or whatever services they're getting from the big four, and only 9% are dispersed with remaining firms. And that's something that's going to change as well. So we are all happy, want to go and work for the big four. That's where your career starts and you learn a lot. Yes, currently this is the situation, but that in the longer term, this is not going to be the case. And that's why if you look at the big four and you look really into their, what they're getting into as a business, they're creating a lot of non-typical accounting and finance services now because they know it is coming. So they're diversifying their services. They're even getting into IT, and digitization will help clients to digitize their business. So they're moving from their typical services into additional non-typical services. So the economic and regulatory changes as well comes the tax function and how it's going to be impacted. So there's going to be greater enforcement, but that enforcement is going to come from technology-based enforcement. It's not anymore us as an accountants that we're going to be able to do those enforcements. It's going to be based coming from technology, which is going to increase the tax risk and the workload, because more enforcement, more work, but we're going to be counting on technology. The tax risk is going to be not in a particular country, but across the globe, because now we have a globalization and you have dispersed divisions working in different environments. And the problem that we have is that the governments now want to collect more. They are under pressure. They need more income, governments. So there's increased pressure on tax regulation so they can collect more, and they want to add more enforcement. Most of governments now, they're thinking about taxes, how we can collect more. They're becoming like we run a business. And this will as well will lead to increased transparency requirements as well, because of data privacy and automation. So things are changing. There's a lot of cost pressures on accountants as well. With the increased regulation in compliance and taxes, we have to meet those requirements, automate, invest, yet there's a lot of cost pressures. So 94% of companies serviced by E&Y, they plan, imagine this, to reduce the cost of their tax and finance function within the next 2 years. So 74% expecting that reduction to be significant. So companies now are looking at, how can I reduce my cost of my people that are handling the finance function and the tax function? So these are companies. 87%, they want to reduce the cost, but they don't have sufficient resources to monitor and comply with rapidly changing legislative environment. So what's happening, what I'm trying to tell you here is that a lot of those tax services might not be the role of accountants anymore. They might be some contract to another player who specializes on that, because there's a lot of cost savings by doing that. So they want to reduce those, and yet they feel that they don't have the resources or the tools to meet the requirements of the future. So in addition to all of this, the cost of recruitment is going up, specifically now when we talk about healthcare. So it's the new generation of accountants, or the new generation of people graduating, they're very careful about what training you give me, what support, what are your obligations towards me, what benefits you offer me. So it's not a more salary, and healthcare cost is rising up. So what they want to minimize the cost, but they want us to do more with less. So this is going to be a big challenge for accounting and finance people, and there's no clear solution for that. So the face of the accounting profession is changing, and I said it's going to be more compliance, but it's going to be automated. So what's going to be is we're going to be shifting from being the people who do the compliance into more of an advisory service. The Big Four already started with that. And probably what's happening is that the compliance will be subcontracted, or we have to require different skills to address the client's needs. So we're moving from compliance into more advisory services. This is definitely going on. Compliance will not disappear. It's not going to go away, but it will be automated, outsourced. And the new skills required for accountants now, we have to have good knowledge of statistics, operation research, how we analyze the operation with the processes, how we can make use of efficiencies. This is the role of an accounting and finance people now. Information security, we have to be familiar of how we put the security around the systems. Big data analysts, market research analysts, these are all skills might be required by accountants. So the skills we're looking at: complex problem solving, critical thinking. We are even talking about creativity, finding solutions in not in the typical way. How we manage people, you're going to be managing people in diverse remote work, how you coordinate with others. So your coordination is not anymore restricted with your fellow finance or with the COO or with the auditors. It's going to be across the entire organization. You have to have good emotional intelligence to be able to communicate, judgment, decision-making, service-oriented. You want to service the other parts within the organization, good negotiation skills, because you'll be dealing with suppliers and you will be negotiating internally within service level within the organization. And you have to have agile and be very flexible. So now when organizations are recruiting, the technical skills can be provided. I'll just give you an example. I received a call from E&Y. They are our client, we work with them. They're looking to hire 100 junior auditors to enter their firm. And they want to start the audit career, and then they progress out of the audit into assurance and other services. They asked me, we want them to start as a junior auditors, but we don't want them to be accountant. We don't want them accounting major. They specifically mentioned that we want them to be engineers. We want to hire engineers to work as junior auditors in the Big Four. When I asked them why you're doing this, they said because we're looking for different kind of skills, analytical skills, statistical skills for those junior auditors. All accounting skills, we can give it on the job. We can train them on it. That's not a big problem. So these are very important now when people are recruiting. They're looking at different skills. As accounting and finance people, a lot of the professional qualification, they're going to start testing on that. And we need to have those skills level in order to succeed. So again, this is just explains it. It's history that's teaching us how to be adaptable. We need to move and be adaptable. So the CFO team in the future is going to evolve. When I say CFO, I'm saying accountants. So if we look at the past, our job was to protect the assets. So the job, when you say accounting or finance person, is somebody who's protecting the assets of the company. And we have an oversight. We're looking at the transactions, we're recording them, and we're producing financial statements to understand our positioning. So we used to report, we follow the standards, and we make sure compliance. This is the CFO of the past. The CFO team today is not about those aspects. We're talking about creating a value. You need to create a value. You need to have an insight and foresight. You need to tell us how we're going to adapt to the future. So it's shifting to becoming a business partner involved in strategy, IT operation, and data analytics. This is the role of now a CFO. It's not, of course, they will oversee the finance department, but it's not an oversight anymore. It's an insight and foresight. This is so much apparent today. So having said that, what are the accounting and finance profession of the future require? Definitely we touch point. We need to have data analysis to be able to make decisions. This is skills required. Good communication. And when I say communication, how you analyze and you translate that analysis into action plans with other departments. Relationship building, you're going to be managing a lot of people and you're going to have relationship with other non-finance people outside the finance department. You have to be creative, manage opportunities and risks. You have to be creative in finding solutions, and you be able creatively to solve complex financial and non-financial problems faster and in more cost-efficient manner. You have to have understanding of the business as a whole, business acumen. On the strategic level, you need to understand the big picture. You need to be knowledgeable how to use softwares, understand what is the latest trends in softwares. You're not asked to be a programmer, but you have to be able to shift software, be flexible and open-minded for using softwares and technology and be up to date. And definitely the soft skills side will way outweigh the technical skills. So it's not about they will give you an exam, see if they're going to recruit you or not. Do you know your debits and the credits, or can you define what's an asset and what's a liability? They don't care about that. They will give you that information. You need to know about psychology, leadership, negotiation, critical thinking, creativity, predictive analytics, economics, project management, persuasion. So soft skills are becoming way more important. So if we look at evolution in if we go back 100 years, a typical accountant was a bookkeeper. Now it evolved from bookkeeping into accountants. Now you have bookkeepers and you have accountants. Then we evolved, okay, we're gonna do compliance and audit. It moved into auditors, then it moved into management accounting. And now we are talking, we have to be a business partner. This is where the role of the evolvement of the accounting and finance careers. So I can talk about CPA and CMA a bit. Do you want me to stop answering questions, then we move into professional qualifications? Up to you. You let me know.
Yeah, so I think, what you've just said has been what I've been trying to tell all my students, that change happens faster than you can think of. I'm going to just share one small example. I remember, when we were growing up, a lot of my friends joined engineering. So in those times, electronic engineers were the most in demand. So all the intelligent ones chose electronic engineering. There was this one person who chose computer engineering and everybody was laughing at him. But within 4 years, the world changed so fast that it was the computer engineer who got the highest package and was picked up the first. So I think we are at a verge of a disruption that is coming our way. I have a few questions that I believe you should address over here for us to understand this better. Demographically, I was listening to a conversation between Jack Ma and Elon Musk. They both agreed. They were actually 180 degrees apart in most of the things. They agreed only on one point, which was shortage of skilled manpower. And they said the requisite skills that are going to be required in the future, you will not have enough people with them. What is your take on that? Specifically when I come to demographically also, I look today, Europe has a negative population growth, Japan's growing negative, and we still have the younger population coming up. So the workforce is there that India has, but I do believe that there is very little guidance with regard to the skills that you talked about. So whether it's the creative skills. Yeah.
Look, the problem, and that's globally, is that it stems from three major things. One is the universities and the educational system. In the US, for example, now, you go and take a loan to get, to do your bachelor's degree. You finish from university, you're in debt. You have to work 10 years in order to pay that debt. And then the companies are saying, hold on, you're graduating people, they're not fit for today's environment. So there's a big skills gap, and US started addressing that. Curriculum are starting to adapting. So definitely, that's the first part, which is the university education. The other thing is that they tell you 60% of high school students entering high school today will end up in jobs that don't exist today. We don't know of. So the other point is that as parents, we're mechanically trained. I want to advise my kid, they need to study accounting. They need to study that. And that's longer, you cannot advise that career skills. The third aspect is that the shift in education is moving from the typical university or the corporate to individual. What I mean by that, those skills, you can only learn them by yourself. Some of the skills cannot be taught to you at the university level. It's impossible. You only learn them through experience, or you learn them through reading about them. So there's a shift now for those who are successful people, is that they have to take it on their own, the ownership, and not count on the university or only the employer. The employer has a role to play, university has a role to play, but now the employee has a role to play as well to keep their skills up to date. Specifically accountants, you talk now to people who are in the IT, you talk to them about blockchain, everybody has sufficient knowledge or they know what it is. You talk to accounting people, it's impacting them the most now. They don't have the knowledge. Why? They're not taking the initiative on their own. So the skills gap is going to continue. And it's always going to be ongoing basis. And not only that, it's the individual now have a responsibility to stay up to date. So that's why, as an Institute of Chartered Accountants in India now, this is a chance for you as well with the ongoing training and learning. Those accountants practicing out there, they have to understand this is not anymore like it used to be. They have to stay their skills up to date. The average lifetime is don't update your skills within 3 years, you'll be obsolete. You're not going to be employable.
Very rightly said. I must share this with you. Even in India, what we are looking at now is government going on from a normal face-to-face, appeal procedure to an e-procedure. And now we have a concept of something called pre-filled income tax returns, because they're collecting so much of data digitally that earlier as chartered accountants, we were required to prepare the income tax return. Now the government is showing us the income tax return. Still in the infancy, but most people are not seeing this. Yeah. So one very important thing.
What's interesting more, Arvind, is that people think, India became very famous for BPOs, business processing outsourcing. A lot of those American firms. Everybody thinks that the reason they're going into India is for cost savings. Okay, that's the general mentality of the typical people. Part of the drive is not the cost savings. It is because there's a talent available in India that is not available in the US. If you look at the iPhones and why they manufacture in China, and that's Tim Cook was mentioning that, because they cannot find, there are the skills in the US, but they don't have the number of skilled people to be able to produce those phones. It's not only about cost savings. So people now, organizations are going places where they find the skills level that meets the requirements.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Demographically, we're in the right place. We have good political will right now. I think we have companies moving to India post-COVID. A lot of companies trying to work out of India because we have an educated workforce. We have an English-speaking workforce. But I think very rightly, this is very close to my heart. That is why I wanted you to come here and address the youngsters. Is that youngsters are not realizing that the skill set that they're acquiring might not be relevant tomorrow. So while ICI and all the other, global accounting institutes are going to be doing their very best to keep pace with changing tech, but it's very difficult to change curriculum every year or 2 years.
Yeah.
That is why I think I totally agree when you say that it is now up to the individuals, each one of us, to guide each other. And I really love the micro loans that you talked about. These are small things that as chartered accountants, we should be aware of. Because I believe, a business owner treats a CA today, like you just said, not as an accountant or as an auditor, but as a business partner. So he's looking for all kinds of business advice because he thinks this guy knows it. This guy has the knowledge of the entire business. I must share one video with you. I think KPMG came out with a auditing video of the future, wherein what they showed was that there is this firm in New Zealand, and their auditing firm is in London, and it's a global company which has offices in New Zealand and everywhere. And suddenly there's an artificial intelligence software that comes up that I've seen some inconsistent entry in a warehouse in New Zealand. So the CA sits back and he asks the AI to send drones to New Zealand to physically check what's going on there and give the data, and for the CA to just sit back and analyze the data and advise the company. Now, I think that's where something of the similar that you were talking about right now.
Yeah. Not only that, imagine your ledger is distributed in the blockchain for security purposes. You cannot go to the company and say, I want 1, 2, 3, and 4. How are you going to it's more complex. The other thing I'll tell you when it comes to it, I worked as an auditor in Canada. We used to go and assess the risk, the internal controls, and do those tests, and then take a sample and like inventory count samples. When we look at the inventory, we take a sample, we test it as an auditor. There's no need for that anymore because now it's all automated. You have on the system, you have the history, and the system is clever enough in the artificial intelligence that will immediately tell you where you should focus your audit. Where's the risk factors? By looking at the business, the revenue, it will crunch thousands of numbers that humans cannot do that and say, sales is down, inventory is up, last year is that, and then it will signal to you where you're gonna audit. So it's gonna be a simple exercise for auditors. Before we used to go manually and we audit the inventory, we audit the receivables. Now everything is integrated. So yes, job as accountants is gonna open up. And that's why you have to have the base. You need to get your CPA, you need to get your Indian Chartered Accountancy, you need to have, this is the base. But if the new entries exam, they think I passed the exam, and now I can go to the corporates and demand a high salary, and I'm gonna be successful, this is no longer the case. It used to be the case 20 years ago that you are secured a job if you're a professional. Now it's a base. It gives you an entry, but you have to meet other criteria.
I totally agree. I think multiple degrees has today, I think, become a necessity for a differentiator because you have so many US companies in India and Indian companies now working outside. Their reporting requirements in US or in UK will need multiple skills of a CPA, an ACCA, or an Indian CA as well.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the story.
It's starting. I mean, look at India. If I look at the Indian market, because I work with the Becker management team in India, if I look at the Indian market now, is that the CPA business in India is growing fast for us. And the CMA business, they have, and this is American qualification, because companies in India are saying we need additional skills requirement. So the IMA has opened an office in India and recruited Indian business development people in India because the demand is growing. Now, is the CMA better than the local qualification? No, it's not better. But it happens that business is driving that. Majority of the large corporates are US based and people want to be global today. They go after the global qualification. It's not because one qualification is better than the others. It's supported by the largest economy in the world. So the balances and the checks are changing. It's very important.
So correct me if I can summarize what you just said for all these all the fraternity here. The US and the Western world is facing a shortfall of talent. We have a pool of talent here, but we don't have the skill set. We just need to get up. We need to stop saying that, okay, jobs are going, we don't have demand, and my degree is not that, getting me the kind of work that I thought it would get, and go and acquire multiple skill sets and bridge the gap between demand and supply. And I think that's where we as Indian Chartered Accountants are in a very, very interesting position. Will that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are 100%, even more interesting because before, if you want to work globally, said, oh, I have to travel to the Gulf, I have to travel to Europe to work over there. Now you can work for those organizations sitting in India. You don't have to relocate with your family. So you can get those foreign packages sitting in India doing that job.
Yeah. Excellent. I think those are a few things. Anybody else has any questions? Because this is very important for all of us moving forward into the next decade, because the past, the change is coming much. Look at education. Look at how many global, internet companies that are into education now. Audits are happening online. Everything is happening online. Yet I believe the accounting, parent companies are moving as fast as they can. But of course, the change is happening even faster. So if children have any questions, or students of fraternity or chartered accountants, any questions, I'm sure Mr. Fadi would be more than glad to address them. I think, Fadi, you can continue with whatever, if anything else is left.
I
to
can
share.
talk. Do you want me to talk about the CPA and CMA in general, just so you understand how the qualification is?
Yeah, so
It's up
I
to you.
have a few queries. Yes, I would love you to do that.
Yeah.
But a few queries. For example, if I want to join an American company who's looking out for me, will it be so? For example, like we just said, that American companies are looking for talent. They've set up even CPA papers. I've been around here in the profession for about 20 plus years. In the last 2 years, CPA exams have started being conducted in India. ACCA is moving very aggressively to get hold of Indian students. So when we look at that trend and we look at the demography, we look at all of it, we know that yes, there are intelligent workforce here. What would your advice be? Why should a student join a CPA or ACCA or Indian CA or CMA? What is it that they should be needing that guidance? Or as a CA, if I need to upgrade my skills, what would it result in? Would I need to go and get a job, or will it be a back office work that I can get? Or can I tie up with big companies abroad? What is it going to be?
Okay. Look, on a high level, I'm not going to get into here because we can talk about this topic for hours.
Yeah, I agree.
All of those qualifications are respectful. It's like you are a heart surgeon. A heart surgeon in India, graduate from India, is as good as a heart surgeon graduate from the US, So we're talking about international financial reporting standards. There are standards that everybody follows. It is the methodology and the approach, okay? I'll give you just a difference between the ACCA and the CPA. ACCA tells you anybody can become an ACCA. You don't need the university degree. You're going to go through 13 levels of papers, testing and everything. And while at the end, you need to have your training and everything to become certified. US have a different approach. They say, look, a lot of those papers that you learn at the ACCA, we're not going to teach them to you. You don't need them because those you would have learned at the university level, because our requirements for the exam is a minimum of a bachelor degree with a major in accounting. So a lot of those papers that they are testing you are not required by us because it's covered at the university. However, and we're going to set an exam, we want to test the basic knowledge to get you into the career as an auditor. Even if you pass the exam, you're not going to get your certification. You're going to have to build 2 years of experience in audit, then we'll get to the experience. It doesn't work that way for the ACA. It's a combined. So the approach is different. That's one. The second thing, you're going to ask me, why is there huge demand on the CPA and CMA? Like you don't see, ACCA were global before the Americans, before the CPA. They've all went global. Americans back then, they said, we don't need to go global. Okay, and it is still the largest certification globally. If you look at the number of candidates globally of the of ACCA, and you look at the total number of candidates sitting for the CPA numbers are in 300,000 to 400,000 exams taken, but they don't market that. They never wanted to go globally because of two things. They had a concern about compliance. Okay, I have 20,000 Indian CPAs practicing in India. How I'm going to monitor them? How can I ensure that they are following the code of ethics and the standards? We don't have a mechanism. Back then, now with the technology is changed. So they just opened the market in India. They came now. The last thing is why the demand is so high. It's simply the qualification of the largest economy in the world. That's the reasons why. So people, they opt for the CPA. It's not because it is better on everything. It's definitely shorter. It's more practical because they save, instead of writing 13 papers or whatever it is, it's much shorter. It's a computer-based exam. Same thing of the CMA. If you look at the American CMA, it's 2-part exams. If you look at the British or the Indian, it's much longer. So the American, they've taken we're going to test the basis, and then with experience, you get certified. and they automated all of this in a computer-based environment that produces certain skills requirements. It fills the gap. They've taken a different approach. So it's more practical, not better, it's more practical. It saves time for the employer and the employee. And the last point is that it is the certification of the largest economy in the world. Every multinational, the majority of the multinationals are US based. And that's why people like the American qualification, because it's the largest economy in the world. So these are the simple why. Is there a healthy demand? Yes, there is a healthy demand. And India was the last country on the list targeting internationals. Like, imagine Lebanon, they had the testing center before India. KSA had it before India. Japan had it before India. Yet, the number of accountants in India is much bigger than those countries. So the concern of the AICTA, they left it till the end, is that we know if we open the market in India, it's going to be masses. And that's why they left it to the end until they learn from experience in other markets. Not because there wasn't demand, they just were worried about how they're going to manage that demand.
I personally believe, and this is, of course, being an Indian, of course, that the next decade also belongs to the Asians and probably the Indians. So we are seeing growth here. We are seeing businesses grow. I think we had the largest number of unicorns in the world coming out of India last year, 2021. So I think chartered accounting.
Not only that, you have the skills.
I think it's a very exciting
skills. India is, I was watching the news, CNN, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs for India, they were talking about India is striking a deal with Russia about the oil and everything. And the reply of the Indian, which is factual, said, we don't want to be involved in that. It is not our word. Not only that, our economy is growing at 3 to 4 times faster than the US because of the skills level and everything. I think what will happen eventually, many of those qualifications, they will have reciprocity arrangements. So there will be a core testing across all certification, and then there will be reciprocity. So if you're an Indian chartered accountant, you want to become a CPA, you sit for one part, and vice versa. So at the end of the day, they're going to come all together.
Yeah, this is you're very right, because at the moment, CPA does not give an Indian chartered accountant any paper exemption, which ACCA does give. ACCA gives about 9 paper exemptions, but CPA doesn't give. But you're right. I think, in my view, if I want to sum this up, I think it's a very exciting time, specifically for Indian chartered accountants. Our course is designed in India to test the best. I think हमारा जो course है, उससे pass करने के बाद, we come out refined in every form of the way. So, you're ready to work hard. You have the brains. ICA is very tough on the result. So they make sure only the best will clear it. But I think it's time to also work towards our own personal goals. And whether it is CPA, whether it is ACCA, whether it is CMA, whether it is forensic science today or data crunching, you need to decide what excites you. And, Fadi, if someone wants to get in touch with you or to share some knowledge that I think you have a lot of webinars that you take. Is there any possible way people can get access to those webinars? Or if
we can arrange for something. We can arrange something. We have through Becker CPE a lot of those webinars. And we'll put you on our mailing list because we do those webinars. Actually, we had a webinar about cryptocurrency and blockchain for accountants not a long time ago. Definitely, if they want to be involved, just email me. You have my contacts. I will forward them to the operations department. They will add them on the mailing list. And whenever they will be on the mailing list, whenever we do those webinars, they can join. And we have other programs as well. So if they want to know more about CPA, CMA, I know that we have operations in India. They can reach out. If they want to talk about CPE, continuing professional education, we run those as well. I mean, it's exciting times, specifically like Asia, India. Those markets are evolving very rapidly. And I think even the Indian qualification, we will see changes. Because like, for example, in the year 2023, the US CPA exam is changing. It's for the first time there is a major change coming into the exam because of the changes in technology and the world. So before we used to sit for 4 parts examination, which there are 4 parts, you have to pass them. Now they said it's a 4 parts, but 3 parts are core, and then you have to choose between the last part. You have a choice between 3 depending on your career. So they're taking into consideration the changes. Same thing with the CMA, where they have updated the curriculum, and I think the other associations as well will be going in that directions as well.
Even Indian curriculum, we had a last change came in 2018. And I believe there's another change, like you say, US is changing drastically. We also know that something is going on. ICA is also working towards changing the curriculum. Hopefully next year, we'll also see a lot of those changes coming in.
Yeah.
So, Anilji, I think if anyone wants to know anything further about CPA, ACCA, CMA, or any of the other degrees that you have, I'm always here. I'm sure you all can connect with me. And Fadi will share his webinar list with us, and we'll try and get it across so that
I can share the presentation with you guys. If you want, just email me. I can share. Actually, Ample, they already have it. And I have a bit of slides towards the end. If you want to later know the difference between CPA and CMA, I can share that with you as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fadi. I think this has been a really enlightening session for all of us here.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
So if any member has any questions, I think now we can take up the questions. If any member is having any question. So there's a question in the chat box which says, keeping jobs aside, can you guide how can a CA in practice enter the foreign markets?
You want me to answer it?
Yeah.
Very simple. A CA, chartered accountant, you already testified that you have the technical skills. You need to make sure you have the other skills. If you have the CA and you have the skills, you're up to date on the other skills, you just need to apply. It is as simple as that. You just need to go into the multinationals and apply for them, and you'll be interviewed. So there's no secret for that. A CA doesn't mean that you cannot apply for international companies. You can apply.
Right, sir. Thank you. Any other questions from the members?
I just have one additional question
for
you. So what I'm wanting to know is that if, as an Indian CA, I want to maybe enter into a contract with a foreign company, would they connect with me as an Indian CA, or would they want a CPA course as well?
Look, depending on the position. So if you are being recruited as a CFO, I'm just giving an example, definitely they will choose CPA because they need to make sure you understand the US tax system, because if you're an American company. But if you're applying for a finance manager, there's no preference this or that. It depends on what you're applying. It depends on the post and what you're applying for.
Thank you.
So we have one more question. Is getting a complete new certification the only way to gain the additional skills? So any of the panelists would like to answer on that?
Party yours.
It gives you skills because it tests different levels. I'm not talking technical here. So let's not talk about the balance sheet, what is included in the balance sheet, what's an asset, because all exams will test you on that. But the CPA tests you, they're ahead of the game when it comes to the way the questions are drafted. It's not because some of the questions, they will test you on your analytical skills, and they will test you on understanding and they'll test you about execution. So the way they approach the exams, they've used technology. Just you understand, there's an AI in the exam. The US CPA exam have embedded artificial intelligence, how they pull out the question and whether they're testing you on your analytical skills, the same topic, or other aspects. So definitely you will learn additional skills, how to approach a matter. That's one aspect. And I recommend as well taking short courses, CPE courses related to the role and the function of accountants. You know, reading more about skills. Example is how to do financial modeling. When you learn financial model, you're better off analyzing data. There are certain things you need to look at as well.
Right, so thank you. And then next one we have is that how do we work on personality development?
This is the same answer. You have to be motivated. It's a drive force, you know, it comes with maturity.
But I also feel, Farid, today, the internet generation has so much of it that they can get online. All they need to go is search and decide what skills they need. They have to spend a little time. And I think personality development is a very vague term. What we might add over there is maybe skills, like you said, of relationship building. One is that. And you have LinkedIn, you have so much of social media that can help you build those connections, build those contacts that can get you some work. And also
and you can have a mentor at job. Go to your boss and be very open. Say like, can you help me? I'd like a mentor to me to develop this and that. A lot of bosses will be open to set up something for you, mentoring and everything, where you might attend certain meetings you shouldn't be attending, but just to learn how it happens and everything. So you need to be, you need to drive that.
Right, sir. Thank you. The next one that we have is, can we get more details of the short courses? I mean, if there is any resource you would like to share on that.
Yeah, I can. And once we receive the list, it's very, just Google our short courses where we have a couple of more over 700 and it's made for accountants. Is Becker CPE. Becker CPE, just Google Becker CPE and go to that link. You will find all we call them continuing professional education. So they're 1 hour, 2 hour courses. Some of them are on demand, some of them are webcast. You check them out. If you're interested, you talk to us. We'll do special arrangements for you.
Right, sir. Thank you. And just the last one is that, is Australian CPA equivalent to US CPA?
I have no much knowledge about the Australian CPA. I cannot answer that. It's an Anglo-Saxon qualification. So if I want to separate the world into professional accounting, you have the Anglo-Saxon and non-Anglo-Saxon. Usually the Anglo-Saxon are the largest and the most respected qualification. The Indian Chartered Accountancy is an Anglo-Saxon. For example, you don't see the French CPA, nobody talks about it, or the German. You always hear British, the Indian, the American, and because the approach is different. So I believe it's a good qualification, but I don't know the details.
Right, sir. I think the questions are all for now. So I think it was indeed a very informative session detailing how the economic scenario is now changing with the technology and digitalization. I would sincerely like to thank CPA Fadigani Sarji for taking out time and explaining the topic in detail. And thanks to Arvind Tulli sir for his insight as a panelist for this session. I would also like to thank the members who have joined this session for their valuable time and presence. I would also like to thank the chairman of Chandigarh branch, CA Anil Kakkarji, and all the members of the managing committee for their efforts towards the conduct of this session. So I think with this, we conclude this session. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and have a good day.
Thank you, sir.